Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Griever here, bringing you guys a discussion video for the Commandments in 7 Deadly Sins, also called Nanatsu no Taizai. Before we begin, though, heavy spoilers, guys. Please make sure you are caught up to Chapter 286 because information from Chapter 286 will be discussed in this video. That being said, guys, once again, this may or may not be a longer video. It depends on how long I feel like ranting for. But right off the bat, I want to say two things. Number one, the difference between the power of the commandments and the curses. Because if you thought that this video was going to discuss the curses, the ones we do know and the ones we don't know of the 10 Commandments, you were mistaken, sir. No. This is discussing the power supply, the battery that we have seen the commandments can become. We have seen this, that Meliodas is currently undergoing this in the real world. And we saw that Estarossa/Male has done this when he absorbed multiple commandments and turned them into raw magical power to bolster his own abilities. Though unstable, it still happened. That is the first point I want to make. We will not be discussing the curses of the commandments. We will be discussing the raw magical power. The second thing I want to bring up, number two, is that I believe that this power is give or take roughly, each commandment is worth roughly 45 to 50,000 in magical power. Now, I know what some people are going to say who know their number games very well, and I know it too. I had this video tied up all in a nice, neat little bow and decided before I made it, I was going to do a little more digging, a little more research. And you know what I found? A problem. That problem lies in Estarossa. And not Gother causing problems with Estarossa. No. It lies in the fact that when we were first introduced to him, he had a power level of 60,000. Pretty good. Yeah, it was the standard for the time. When he absorbed truth, however, his magical power was only bolstered by 28,000 to 88,000. The problem with my logic of saying that 45 to 50,000 of each commandment is stated right there in the math. However, the issue lies once again. It is inconsistent inside the story. For when he absorbed 4 total commandments, both charity/love, purity, silence, and truth, he had an arbitrary 200,000 plus. I know that it's very unlikely that it's above 250,000. Why? Because when you are going to give us an arbitrary number, usually you use the lowest common denominator to explain it. 200,000 is a common denominator. But if it was above 250, would you not say 250,000? Would you not say 250,000 plus? It's a quarter. It's a quarter of another denomination. So it's very easy, another denominator to use. But they did not. They said it was 200,000 plus. This leads me to believe that it is definitely above 200, but below 250. So where does the math go wrong? For if truth is only worth 28,000, and it's clearly not linear, then it must be exponential. Well, no, exponential would lead it to be well above this number as well. And I believe it to be a cross between potentially exponential and linear, kind of a hybrid. However, it's much more easy to believe that just each commandment is roughly worth this, but some are worth way more than others. That's all it boils down to, really. Piety could be worth 80,000, and truth could only be worth 20. It'd be very easy to say that. The reason I want to use 50,000 for the sake of this video, or roughly thereabouts, is because the math works out to explain the latest chapter power levels and the power level of the Demon King, and why Meliodas would be able to take on the Demon King if he absorbed all 10. So let's just jump right into the issue with Rudessio. Rudessio's power level was stated to be 201,000 at the time of the latest chapter. 201,000. One archangel inside of a vessel. Would you not, give or take, say that this is roughly his true power? I would say that if it's not that, it's very close, because as we know, Margaret is a very compatible vessel for him. Unlike Sariel and Tarmiel, who were stated to have an arbitrary 80,000, give or take. And that seems, as I said in the Boar's Head podcast last week, that seems like too much of a gap, too much of a jump within the same tier of Archangel. It was too much. So I would like to say that Margaret just simply makes a much more compatible body or vessel for Rudesiel to use, so he is able to draw out more of his full power, and Sariel and Tarmiel were not able to do as much. Hence, they did not have full capacity of their magical power. Thus, it was limited to roughly 80,000. Now, this all ties back to the Holy War, 3,000 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we do not say they were at a stalemate. I believe this was stated a few times during the past arc, where we saw that Stigma and the demons were at a stalemate. The archangels could not overcome the commandments on their own, and the commandments could not overcome the 4 archangels on their own. When the balance of power was shifted, that's why Wheelchair Gother brought about his grand plan. Partly for revenge, as we found out later, what a boss, but partly, once again, to tip the balance of power back to equal, back to a gray area. There was no clear victor in the Holy War. So if you were to take that at face value, that would mean that 200,000 of Rudesiel, and let's just bump them up. 100,000 for Sariel and Tarmiel apiece. That gives them easily 400,000, and they're missing 1 archangel. So, would you not grant at least Mal for being probably high peak at plus 200, but low peak below it? And we can discuss the Grace of Sunshine and why it's unique to Escanor, how it affects him different than it affects Mal all day if you want, but that's not the point of this video. Suffice it to say, I believe that the Archangel's combined power was 500,000 plus. In numerical value alone, the Archangels, the 4 of them, was always quality over quantity, unlike the Commandments. There were 4, but these 4 could stand toe-to-toe with the 10. And that would surmise them to stand at the very least, they're 400 without the 4th Archangel. So it's easy to say 500. 500,000 power. Okay. So this 500,000 plus, it must have been an equivalent to the demon clan, to the 10 commandments, the elite demons. So if we are to say that these powers, now once again, you can subtract the math from individual. If you were to take away the commandment from Zeldris, he would not go down to 0. If you were to take away the Grace of Flash from Rudesiel, he would not lose all 201,000 magical power. So you can subtract the math and use arbitrary numbers to support your own conclusion. I am simply using baseline 50 to make this very, very simple. If you were to 50,000 times each commandment, that's 500,000. If you were to take the power level of each of these people, 500,000. So now you have 2 groups at 500,000 plus by this logic. Well, 500,000 versus 500,000, that seems pretty even to me, and it would explain the stalemate, the stigma. It also explains 2 other things that we've seen clearly in the latest chapters. The fact that the Demon King, with half of his power, is still OP. And why someone with a power level of 201,000 inside of a compatible vessel, but a vessel nonetheless, who wants to eradicate and genocide all demons, would not go to Purgatory himself to try to destroy the Demon King. Regardless of the effects of Purgatory, why would Rudesiel not seek out to destroy the Demon King if he thought he could do it? If he thought he was a match? The reason is, the Demon King's power level, though not stated, is 500,000 plus. This works. This works. Because if you were to take away half of the Demon King's power, and he still is a threat, something beyond the members of the 10 Commandments, the members of the 7 Deadly Sins, and the members of Stigma or the 4 Archangels, the Goddess Clan. He needs to have a power level that at least matches or surpasses the group as a whole. He must surpass 500,000 or equal it. And he does. He clearly does. So if you were to take that away and additive make it up, 10 Commandments plus Demon King, 1 million. Easy, very easy number to understand. The Demon King's full power at full potential is 1 over 1 million. When Meliodas takes these 10 Commandments into himself, Demon King being 500 plus. Well, if that's the case, by the math logic, the fact that Rudesiel never stormed purgatory with his brethren and attempted to destroy the Demon King is, to me, proof of this, that the Demon King must have had a power level that was equal to or surpassing this group. Then it only makes sense that Meliodas would be able to challenge the Demon King with half of his power, being once again 500,000 plus. And it would only make more sense that Meliodas, once absorbing all 10 commandments, would have no threat from Rudesiel and the other archangels. Because if the Demon King has no threat from them, which is clearly the case, then why would Meliodas, being his father in equal power? This is why I say that the power level of the commandments is roughly 50,000. Now, once again, as I stated before, potentially some are only worth 25 and others worth 75,000. That could be something. It could be a combination between maths. It's not necessarily linear. It's not necessarily exponential. Kind of a pseudo combination between the two, and it's an arbitrary sort of mathematical equation, an algorithm of some variety. And it could depend on multiple factors, the host. It could depend on their initial power level. There's many things to consider, because once again, I stated, if you took away someone's grace or someone's commandment, they would not drop to 0. However, it depends on the person themselves, and we've never really seen what the difference in numbers would actually be. And once again, stating these numbers are not very factual and are very hard to determine how true they are. Once again, Sariel and Tarmiel being in not the best of hosts. We have Mael with no indication what his original power was when he had sunshine. We have Rudesiel in a compatible vessel, but a vessel nonetheless. There are so many things to go off on the archangels there, and we cannot base it off of Escanor. Hell, we could not even base this off if we knew Mael's numbers, because the way Sunshine the Grace works, there is no way to have a concrete number. What is his standard number at any given time? When the sun is not rising, when the sun is setting, it'd be an impossible thing to use that. That would be a very unreliable source for gauging his actual power standing. Now, once again, this video was just not to explain the curses, which we are lacking in at least, I think, 4 of explanation of what the curses of some of the commandments actually did, like Loxinias and Monspeets and the like. But this was to try to understand the math and explain what each commandment, when turned into the absorption battery, the power supply that they have now become in the story, what they would roughly be worth. Now, once again, I know this video went off on a few tangents and didn't fully explain what numbers we can expect to see from Meliodas. It suffices to say, I believe he'll be 500, half a mil plus. Because, once again, if the Demon King himself is not threatened, it appears to be, by the combined power of the archangels, and why Rudesiel would not lead a host of Stigma to go after the Demon King if this were the case, then I fail to see what other number explanation could there be. This ties up everything in quite a neat little bow. It explains the Demon King's power and why he is so broken and OP against everything. It explains what the actual stalemate between the 10 and the 4, meaning the commandments and the archangels, and why they are still considered a match. Quality over quantity with the archangels' graces versus the commandments, but where there are only 4 graces and 10 commandments, it balances itself out. And it could only balance itself out if the numbers were true. Now, once again, these numbers could fluctuate a bit, and as Merlin has constantly said, and as we know from long-time watchers of DBZ, we know that power levels don't necessarily mean who's going to win. We know power levels are not everything, but they do matter. They are something still prevalent in the series, and we should take them at the value as they stand. That being said, guys, what did you think of the video? Do you believe that what I said, that the commandments are roughly, give or take, 50,000, and the total combined power of all 10 when turned into a power supply are roughly 500,000 of absorption capability? Do you think that's too high a number? Do you think it's too low a number? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you back here next time for another discussion video. This has been Griever with the 7 Deadly Sins discussion, signing out. Later, guys.